Well, I read an article in the New York Times today that described my debate performance as weird and weirdly compelling. And that seems to name it. I had never done this before. I have some cringing mixed with laughter myself, seeing some of this outtakes. I'd never done it before. I didn't know how to do the jousting. However, I also understand, and I think most people understand, that despite where my delivery might have seemed awkward at places, what I said was very serious and very substantial. And I'm glad to have seen that remarked upon as well. Whether it has to do with the fact that we have a sickness care system rather than a real health care system, that we have to look at our environmental policies, our chemical policies, our food policies, much as we're talking about here with Denmark. Whether it has to do with the mention of a U.S. foreign policy in Latin America, whether it has to do with the fact that the kidnappings and the detainment centers at the border are actually, in my mind, state-sponsored crimes of child neglect and kidnapping, and also my saying to the president, very clearly, you harness fear for political purposes. And something people have not remarked upon, which I think was significant, was when I said to the president, I think you're doing that. I think he knows exactly what he's doing, and saying that as the nominee, my choice will be to harness love for political purposes. Well, it's been said before that there are many Flint, Michigans out there. I think that at first we all liked to think that the problem with lead in the water in Flint was associated specifically with Flint, and it was just an isolated case. But it's not. It's just not a Flint crisis. It's a water crisis, and underneath that is a moral crisis. This is criminal neglect, in my mind. It is criminal neglect of the government to do its job. Not only is the government not appropriately helping the citizens of Denmark with this water crisis, many aspects of and portions of the state government, local government, and perhaps even federal government is actively involved in thwarting the efforts to deal with this. And a presidential campaign is a platform that gives any candidate an opportunity to use the megaphone of such a campaign, and I'm glad to use mine to be able to tell people who do not know about the terrible problems in Denmark, South Carolina. People are being poisoned by their water. That is not a hyperbole, that is not overstating it, and whereas the government should be helping them, the government, to say they're not at best the government is not helping, at worst certain aspects of the government are actually part of what is clearly a cover-up and an obstruction to dealing with this issue.
And as president, how would you address that issue and deal with that issue?
Well, for one thing, it has to do with the purpose of government. So in terms of that particular issue, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Food and Drug Administration, there are many agencies such as those which are responsible theoretically for such problems as this. We would have a world-class environmental scientist and not a chemical company executive or an oil company executive as the head of the EPA. Clean water, one of the things that this administration has done is to gut the Clean Water Act, gut the Clean Air Act. But this goes beyond that. This goes beyond just not making sure that there's clean water. There's neglecting the fact that there is clearly poisonous water in water. If all we're trying to do is to be tough enough to beat Trump, I don't think we'll beat him. He is a phenomenon. He's not just a politician. And I don't believe that an insider politics game will defeat him. You can't defeat dog whistles. You have to drown them out with a very loud, more beautiful song. And that is a song that has to be sung by every citizen who recognizes what an important moment this is and how all of us must rise up. And that will be a phenomenon. And I believe nothing less than that will defeat him at the polls in 2020.